I find that when I'm trying to figure out who I'm following in a story, that if I'm just fascinated with the person and intrigued by them, and I don't feel like I fully understand them, but I'm intrigued by them, that's a good bellwether, I think, for the movie I'm about to make, because we are going on a fishing expedition, as it were. We don't know what we're going to come back with, because we're gonna just sort of commit to this person or a couple of people, and we're going to follow and see what happens to them in those films. And I really do believe that if you make the commitment, and you really make the commitment, and you follow their lives, then things will happen. They just inevitably do, especially if you follow them for years, which I've done on a few occasions. Things will happen, and a story will emerge, and surprising things will happen. And you just have to be attentive to it and be there. As a friend of mine says, you know, there's luck, but it's not dumb luck. You know, that you make your luck by the choices you make in terms of who you're following and what your gut tells you about them, and then by the persistence to be there and to be there a lot. And so I think that's the key. And then in the editing, so I think all the time that you're doing the shooting, you're revising the story that you're telling. You think you're telling one story at the beginning, and then as things evolve, it's like, oh my God, no, that's not the story we're telling anymore. Well, when I went down to do this portrait of Stevie, I thought it was going to be a portrait of a kid that I'd once been a big brother to 10 years earlier, and like look back on who he was then, and here he is now. And it was going to actually be a short film instead of a 2-hour and 25-minute film. But then he got arrested and charged with sexually abusing his cousin. And so then it became a very different film, obviously. And so in all the films I've done, there's been these twists that have happened, because that's what life does. And so then in the editing is the other phase of that, which is, okay, you have this story that you've been spinning in your head and documenting, which you need to do in order to know what to shoot and what not to shoot. But then in editing is when you really now is the real, it's like the equivalent in the scripted of the screenwriting phase. It's just at the end of the process. Right. So now you're writing the real story, because you have all this material, and no matter how clear it may have seemed during shooting of what you were doing, you weren't working it out beat by beat, moment by moment, scene by scene. That's a much deeper level of understanding of the story you're telling.